Greetings, fellow swimmers. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the very first episode of Sunkenland. If you would like to skip the game's overview, please use YouTube chapters. Sunkenland is a Waterworld-themed survival game with modular-based building, sunken city scavenging, crafting, base defense, and invasions from hostile clans for resources and territory. Sunkenland feels a bit like Raft or Rust, or also maybe Valheim, kind of a mix of all three. It's a little rough around the edges. And then it will be a pretty good series for people that want to like check out the game or learn how to play or whatever. And you guys, as per the usual, will be able to help decide how we progress. So let's get started. And Kadath, holy moly. Thank you, sir. Drinks are on you. I guess I'll go pink. All right, you know what? It's a water game, I'll go blue. But cheers. So, I've already made a character. Your characters are not connected to save files. They're just kind of the way you look. So this is my character. But I'll show you what the new character screen looks like. You have male and female. And there is a few different skin tones, a few different hair. Some options, not many. And I'm going to be creating a new world. So, enemy difficulty, everything is I'm going to leave alone on normal. Normal, mid, normal, friendly fire, share research, you know, if you're playing cooperative. This is a multiplayer game, but I am playing single player. And I highly advise not to check the random birthplace, but to take the preset birthplace. Because it will spawn you on your own castaway island. So let's get started. So if you're thalassophobic, fear of the open or deep water, you're about to have a fun time. So here we go. The sort of story of the game, as it describes itself, self-describes itself as sort of like Waterworld-esque, is that the world is flooded, and there is not a lot of high water. Man, I still cannot figure out what the right volume is here. So a lot of the stuff is underwater. And a huge part of the game is to go spelunking or snorkeling or whatever. Go diving for resources. But first order business right now is to build a basic shelter. So a lot of the games like this, you are probably familiar with like the typical hatchet. This game gives you one for free. And then your starting island has trees and crabs and other things you can forage for. You can cut down trees much the way you would think you could. And it's a modular building system where you can build in wood or metal, and there is base defense mechanics even in single player, which is important to note. They don't become immediately obvious really early on in game, because the game gives you a little bit of a breather before it starts sending hordes of enemies to try to kill you at night. But yeah, the building systems are very similar, like Rust. In fact, I'm like naked in my skivvies with a little stone hatchet, so it's probably very reminiscent of Rust. But for some of the other game mechanics, it plays more like Valheim, where there's a progression mechanic where certain enemies are really easy to kill, other enemies are harder. So much like Valheim, where you have different islands of difficulty, this game has the same sort of idea. So speaking of which, here is the map. As it is so far, it is not procedurally generated, it is static. I don't know if there's plans to ever make a procedurally generated map, but it's a static map, and you have to obtain resources either from the ocean or going to the other islands. And about half of the other islands are inhabited by people that do not want you to live, would like to see you dead. So if we hit tab here, I'll go over the UI real quick. We have food and water, pretty obviously, health and stamina, or energy, rather. Well, stamina is the teal and energy is the blue, where you can drink things like soda to regain your energy max cap. You can also regain that by sleeping too. But you technically don't have to sleep if you just keep chugging soda in the game. Then in the inventory, you start off with some basic recipes. So we have like a crude axe, a wooden spear, a bow, and arrows. We've got a sack, seawater bucket, diving fins, so on and so forth, clothing, the very basics. In the building menu, it shows you what you can build. There is the structures. These would be like cooking, planting, farming, crafting, research, furniture. A lot of the furniture is cosmetic, but not all of it. So like a humble sofa is more cosmetic than like a metal chest that you can store things in. You have defenses, because your base will be attacked by NPCs. So you can build gates and barriers and barbed wire and the like. You got boats to be able to get out to the other islands more quickly than swimming, because swimming would be insane. It would take you forever. And then light sources. Your current mission is pretty generic. It's like first chapter, establish a base and defend yourself, more or less. I mean, you can read it if you want. There are blueprints you can unlock. Most of the blueprints that you unlock are cosmetic stuff like couches and beds and bureaus and dressers, but some of them are actually important, like motorboats and helicopters. And yeah, you can have motorboats and helicopters. The map shows you what percent of the island you have completed. So I've looted roughly 4% of Castaway Island. Certain things like trees will respawn over time, so you can cut them all down and not worry about running out. However, in the instance of like strawberry plants, it's probably best that you start farming them, because the strawberry plants will regrow over time, but not enough to actually sustain you. You will starve to death waiting for it to regen. My inventory is basically full, so I'm going to have to start building here in a second. And then factions. So there is the Mutant faction, Marauders faction, Slavers faction, Salvation Clan, Hunters Union, and Warhead Tribe. And you will roughly encounter these from top to bottom. Mutants and Marauders are going to be the factions you interact with earlier on, and they're a little bit easier to kill. And then there's actually a pretty big jump when you get to Slavers, because all of a sudden they have like big guns and they will murder you outright. So let's get building. One thing I like to do when building is to build facing that structure right there, that little island out there. That is the trader. It's really the only other NPC in the game that isn't trying to murder you. So, very nice to, have some friends, I suppose. And because this is a water game, I'm going to build kind of on the water as a choice. You don't have to. But I did have an idea for a base design that I would like to try to accomplish. And it's going to cost a lot of wood, but I think it's going to be worth it. I did do a bit of playtesting for this game, and I slowly learned what works, what doesn't work. But I wanted to make something that was somewhat aesthetic so that it looked cool. And then once I have a basic base structure up, I'm going to have you guys then subsequently vote for goals thereafter. What research to pursue, what things to build. You want to call the trader Archibald? I'm not sure she would be. She would take that kindly, as the trader is female. In a way, this game is a bit like 7 Days to Die as well, because 7 Days to Die does have the concept of like traders, and then also has the concept of raiding NPCs. A bit of both. All right. So I am going to choose not to build walls, because I'm not going to need walls until a little bit later on in the game, because people aren't going to attack me. So instead of building walls out of wood and then wanting to get rid of the wooden walls later, I'm just going to wait until I have more metal. But what I will start to do is to put chests down. And I'm going to do it here to store some stuff. Let's keep those bandages. I'm not going to do any organization just yet, but I will soon. So the first order of business I think that is smart to do is to get a research table. So we are going to scavenge for a research table. And a research table allows you to unlock a lot of the stuff that you're going to want later on. And that requires wood planks, scrap metal, and components. So the wood planks are going to be really easy. I live on an island full of wood planks. Can raiders swim to get you? Yes. Yes, they can. And raiders often will also have ranged weapons. So, and they can fire in the water. Like, while they swim, they can fire guns and crossbows. So, defeating raiders by living in a pontoon base will not work. I need a catchphrase when I organize. I'll have to think of one. Damn that waterproof black powder. Yeah, I know, right? To be fair, it's not all, black powder. There is, like, 50 cal machine guns in this game. They're slightly more modern. Even though, at the moment, it looks like I'm naked with a hatchet. You don't stay that way for very long. Alright, so we definitely have the wood. Something worth noting, I have strawberry seeds and bush seeds to be able to plant stuff. We are going to be able to make planters to be able to plant. So, in order to get the research table, I'm going to want scrap metal and components. And components are, early on, slightly hard to find until you kind of get used to where they're kept. But scrap metal can be found just about everywhere. In fact, I would say really early on, it might feel like, oh, I'm going to build in wood because it's more readily available. But honestly, metal, scrap metal, way more readily available than wood. There's most of the islands out there, apart from the starter island, do not have good sources of wood. Like that little trader island might have like 3 trees on it, but it's going to have a lot more metal in it than wood. Which is also exactly why I am not building the walls of my little starter structure out of wood. I'm going to wait until I can do it in metal. There's also iron too. So your base doesn't necessarily just have to be scrap metal or wood. There's additional options to build in proper iron. It just building a large base in proper iron would take you a long time. Just take my word for it, because you have to mine and smelt the resources, and well, that won't be fast. So some of the items will give you resources as you scavenge them. Others will give you resources once you finish scavenging, like that dumpster. Dumpsters, trash cans, toolboxes, those types of things give you the items only upon completion. And there's also some of the all the clothing gives you some armor values, so it's also important to try to clothe yourself well. Ooh, I got a neon sign, the Route 66 sign. Put some shoes on. I'm sure they'll help me swim. So I'm going to skip some of these cars here and go for components. Because really all I'm lacking right now is components. The really important resources to get early on, I would say, are components and rubber. Glass is up there as well, and cloth. Cloth you come by more and more and more as you play, and it becomes far less of a bottleneck. But components and rubber is a bottleneck that you... Ooh. Nice. I am looking all sorts of fanciful. Ah, here we go. Here's a toolbox that will have components. They typically do. 5. If you run out of oxygen, I'll just demonstrate it here for you. You will start to black out, giving you a little bit of time to resurface. But I would like to try to go this stream without dying, which is a little challenging, but that's my goal. So let's go ahead and get, oops, wrong way. And yeah, items that you don't have space for, you will absolutely just dump on the ground. It's a little annoying. As I said in the beginning, this game is a little rough around the edges at times. And just, I think that's probably just worth knowing. Okay. Pick up a little bit more wood. So in terms of these items, these are cosmetics, but you can sell them, like the rubber ducky and the sign, and then the ones with the dollar sign is worth something to the trader. So you might want to hold on to that for its resale value. Here's the research table, and this is what we can research. The important ones really early on. The repair station is really nice when you have armor, because you can repair your armor, so you don't have to make new stuff. Crossbow's a really good starting weapon. Scrap armor and scrap helmet, really good starting armor. So those are probably the really important ones. And then the two-handed axe is pretty good as well. So, question to you guys is what to do next. Research, building, or scavenging. And I'm going to have you guys vote for a very brief period of time while I resource gather in the meantime. So some good things to aim for early on is a wooden sailboat. And that's going to allow you to travel beyond the Castaway Island. Because without a wooden sailboat, you know, you're swimming and you're really... there are sharks out there. You're not going to want to go on foot or swimming over to them. And then I would also say weapons would be good too, depending on the islands you're going to. Some islands are inhabited, and the inhabited ones are not going to be friendly. So if you're wondering... when you explore new islands, they will either show up in red if there are hostiles on the island, or white if there are not, and it will say neutral at the top if they're neutral as well. Alright, we're going to do a little bit of research. I am going to decide research, weapons, and armor. Crossbow bolt, check. So in order to make rope is something you make by hand with cloth. So crossbow, check. Another rope for the scrap armor, check, and scrap helmet, check. Now, just because I researched it doesn't mean I actually have it. Actually, crafting it for yourself typically is more expensive. So it only costs 1 rope to research scrap metal armor, but it costs 2 rope to actually make it. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to make stuff for yourself. Another good one to have would be a sack to increase my carry weight, so that I can carry more things as I travel. So I am going to fill up my thirst a little bit. And the next thing I want to do researching-wise... I also want to get a repair station. That's going to be necessary once I have armor to be able to maintain the armor. Oh, I'm out of components. So let's go get some components. I just drank ocean water? No, I drank a cola. Closed cola. These rocks have a bunch of scallops on them. And scallop is one ingredient of a really nice seafood platter recipe that you get later on. which helps out a lot. I'm going to have you guys just vote for what I do after I get some basic weapons. So if you're wondering, building would probably, I would start to, well, let's see what there is to build, just so you know you're voting on. So I'd probably want to get a simple grill and simple water purifier to fulfill my food and water. That would what building would be. And then after getting those two basics, saving up for a sailboat. Now there is a paddle boat that you can do instead of a sailboat, but it costs a lot of components, and honestly, components are kind of a bottleneck pretty early on in game. So I think the sailboat, personally, I find it better and cheaper. Not a good reason not to use it. Ooh, this car had components in it. Nice. So did this one. I'm getting lucky. Hey, Highland Timber, thank you for the resub. Now, another thing you might be able to tell, and this is similar to Raft, is as you get better equipment, like diving fins or backpack or a oxygen tank, your ability to stay under and also explore things that are deeper increases, which is a driving factor for tech as well. Ooh, I just got painkiller or antibiotics, which is a good health regen item. And a shirt. Nice. Oh, look at me. Alright, I have enough stuff for now. Also wouldn't be a terrible idea to get a bed up and going as well, because a bed will allow me to sleep through the night, because it's actually pretty hard to fight or scavenge at night, because you won't be able to see what you're doing. You'll have to hold a torch, and if you're holding a torch, you know, you're gonna... It's just tricky. So the repair station, done. And all the other things here are like nice to have, but maybe not need to have, in my opinion. So I am going to decide... I'm actually not going to build that just yet. I want a repairing hammer. And I don't have enough cloth for it. But I will make myself a nice scrap helmet. So the armor's on the left, clothing's on the right. So I can have a scrap helmet. And also the clothing underneath at the same time, which is cool. Alright, got my repairing hammer. I think you might be able to see where I'm going with this. I'm not sure if I have enough clearance for a sailboat to go underneath, but it's what I would like to do. At night, you'll also get cold. So I'm gonna have a bit of a chill. I wanted to avoid clipping into like that. Let's see if I can avoid that. Joke. That looks about right. Nice. And then, out of caution, because I'm not sure that I'll have clear... Well, you know what I could do? Not just decide not to build this section just yet. Not to build this up. And then if the sailboat does clip, I'll fix it. I think that's prudent. Don't get ahead of myself. So let's go ahead and get the grill and purifier on. So a purifier is going to be probably best to put near the water early game, because you'll need to get down to the water level in order to fill up with a bucket. But your grill you can put anywhere, so I'm planning on having the grill be up here. Rooftop grill. I'm also making sure that there's plenty of room between the crafting place and the edge of the walls here. Because what ends up happening, this could happen if you clip, is the game will allow you to build walls even when your furniture clips through them. But if your furniture clips through them, what can end up happening is when attackers are coming to attack you, they will be hitting your research table or whatever through the walls, rather than actually hitting your walls. So make sure that you don't, make sure you're very careful about where you place things as a result. So I'm not going to have enough for the purifier. Luckily, I have another cola to be able to keep my thirst down. Actually, I have two of them. Because, yeah, for the purifier, I need one more component that I am currently missing. But yeah, this is how to cook. I'm adding wood to it, and then I can either take the food or eat it right off the grill. Alright, next goal is to build a sailboat. So the sailboat here, 8 cloth and 2 rope. So it's 3 cloth per rope. So that gives you sort of an idea of how much cloth I need. More than I currently have by a sizable margin. Additionally, it might not be a bad idea for me to place down a simple bed so I can pass the time at night. So I'll put a bed here. And you'll lose food and water as you sleep. But it's going to be a lot easier for me to work with some daylight. Ebenass, thank you for the resub. So I'm not too worried about the wood. Hey, it's a crab. So it's mostly the cloth that I'm after. And I'm going to find cloth from old washers and dryers and also cupboards to break down. There is cotton that you can plant. That I might be able to find some cotton seeds. But probably going to be a little bit easier for me to just scrounge for it for now and not worry about farming the cotton just yet. But plants, unlike a lot of games like this, are just really easy to maintain. They don't require water or even sunlight or anything. You just build a planter box and you stick a seed in and you're pretty much done. There's not any other steps. Which is interesting. The cars can be a source of cloth, if you're lucky. Sometimes you're just straight scrap metal. And if you're really lucky, then you get components. Most of these buildings I've already picked over. Oh, there was a rubble pile and something else in there, though. If you have any questions, feel free to use the channel point redemption. And I'll try to get them answered. We're doing on cloth 3, so not good. Now there are other points of interest that are swimmable, so I might go swim out to some of the closer points of interest that are more cloth laden. Oh, but an old bed that should get me some cloth. All one cloth. Yeah, it's pretty early access. There's a lot of rough around the corners, you know, rough edges, mistranslations, and sort of some things are wonky. The combat is definitely a little wonky, but regardless, I still find it pretty fun. It's not any wonkier than like Raft was really early in its development. Raft was in rough-ish shape. Gasoline is going to be really important, as you could probably imagine. So I've been scavenging a little bit of gasoline off some of these old vehicles. Definitely, if you have to drop an item, don't drop your gasoline. Alright. I'm guessing castaway, yeah, 71%. So let's go ahead and dump our current haul and then get out and get some more stuff. So obviously this is the trader, that direction. I am going to go over to where those high tension lines are. And that will be my next scavenging point. You don't really need to go 100%ing each zone. What I've found is like some of the hostile islands, it's kind of easier to like loot everything because there's not a lot of boxes. But a lot of these other points of interest, you'll quickly realize, like, there's just thousands of things, and most of it is for resources you don't need. You know, at some point you're going to have enough scrap metal or whatever that you're just not going to need more. You're not going to need to go diving for cars because you have no need for the resource. So these are the unknown ruins. Oh, and there should be cloth in here. Oh, yes. 3. And I did see the toolbox down there. The toolboxes are, I'm pretty sure, just guaranteed components. And one of the only ways for you to get components until you learn how to craft them yourself, so there's some of the nicer things to hit. Now the game does have sharks. I've never really run into too much problem with the sharks, though. The underwater combat is, well, wonky as well. So the sharks are kind of a joke compared to, like, Raft. Travasker, thank you for the resub. For some reason or other, I didn't even get an alert. My alerts must be down. So I've done about 10% of these unknown ruins, and I've looted maybe a third of what was on the Castaway Island as like a point of reference. That's because you're naturally stealthy? You stealth the resub? I love it. Silent. Work gloves. So I was hoping to save up for the boat. So now I need, I think, just 6 more cloth to be able to make it work. That's a funny translation. It's a sand watch. I've never heard it called that. Can you make scuba gear? You can. You sure can. And perhaps that will be next. The initial ruins that you have access to really early on in the game aren't too deep underwater. Meaning you don't require you don't necessarily benefit from the scuba gear because you're so close to the surface, but later on it becomes a lot more necessary to have an oxygen tank and flippers. And the flippers are and there's also the whatever they call the like underwater scooter thing. I don't know the proper term for it, but that's also a thing in the game as well. I should be getting pretty close to my cloth need. So these tires are also very important, because they're one of the only things that will give you rubber, and rubber becomes pretty necessary. Yeah, a sea glide. That's it. I'm trying to think back to playing Subnautica, what they called it. Alright, I have everything I need for the boat. So, what do you want me to do next? Build up the base, do a little research, do a little scavenging. I'll also add one more thing actually to this list, so I lied. There we go. Gear. If you want me to get better gear, actually make the helmet, well, I have the helmet. Actually make the armor, actually make flippers, that kind of thing. You can vote for gear. Minnie, thank you for the resub. Ahoy! You know, it's Talk Like a Pirate Day, isn't it? September 19th? I think it's Talk Like a Pirate Day. Avast, you matey. Just a little bit more wood, and I'll have the sailboat going. I actually might be out of things to cut from this island, and in that case I could swim over to the trader and cut her trees down. She's not an arborist. She won't care. You never follow those funky days? I don't usually. I just know someone who has a birthday on Talk Like a Pirate Day. Which would be today. Yeah, I'm out of wood here. Alright. In that case, I am going to make a quick run over to our trade friend over that way, and I'm also going to bring all the things I don't necessarily need on me right now. So I'm going to sell the shoes. I'm going to sell the signs because I'm not going to gussy up my base too much. Yeah, we'll keep the rubber ducky for Ash's sake. It also might be a bad time to go over there, because it's getting darker. Thank you for tuning in to Sunkenland, which originally streamed live on Twitch September 19th. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, a link can be found in the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching, and a special thank you to my Patreon patrons, Twitch subscribers, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you on next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow survivors.